Hey, welcome to the Lock and Load Show. Broadcasting on the interwebs from the Big Island of Hawaii. And my excellent, I'd like to introduce you to my excellent panelists from the great state of Michigan. We've got Squib Load, former Marine and retired Marine, always a Marine, but retired, and I guess you say you're a military historian with a specialty on midget subs, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of into the whole Japanese Navy midget sub thing. Yeah, I'm not into the Yankee Marshall midget hooker thing though.
I must have missed that episode of The Lobby. And my other friend from Michigan, Dusty One, farmer with a pitchfork. How's things going for you, Dusty?
Great. Work's done for the year, so now I can relax.
Awesome. How's the price of soybean futures?
Better than Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is trading futures. Really? You get $12,000 a soybean for a bushel?
Yeah, well, mine's real. What's yours?
It's real too. It's very real, and it's being traded on the COMEX, just like soybeans, except the price is higher. So anyway, this is your host, the Hawaii Volcano Squad, and we'll save the cryptos for the end of the show, and then you can hopefully come up with a rational argument against them instead of just name calling. But let's see, we were supposed to talk about World War I, World War II, World War III, midget subs, and weed and gun confiscation. So let me do a screen share of that article in my local paper so you can see what all the fuss is about. And I think some other people have done some shows on this, but so this is my local paper. The Hawaii Police, wait a minute, where's my news cue? Sound effect. All right, the Hawaii Police Department has a letter it sends to medical marijuana patients. By Hawaii Police Department, they mean the island of Hawaii, the Big Island. So they have a letter they send to medical marijuana patients seeking a gun permit. That's similar to a letter sent by the Honolulu Police Department. And they have cannabis advocates up in arms, so to speak. The Honolulu Police Department letter, reportedly sent by the chief to 30 medical marijuana patients this year, gave them 30 days to, quote, voluntarily surrender your firearms, permit, and ammunition to the Honolulu Police Department or otherwise transfer ownership, unquote. On Thursday, Honolulu media outlets reported Honolulu Police Department reviewing its policy of requiring some medical cannabis cardholders to turn in their firearms. The latest letter was sent November 13th and signed by Major Raymond Aketa, head of the department's records division, on behalf of Chief Susan Ballard. The letters were initiated under the administration of former Honolulu Police Chief Louis Kealoha. And for those of you who have been following closely all the Supreme Court's cases and Ninth Circuit, Kealoha was the guy that they sued for denying permits in the Baker case, which was a parallel case to the Peruta case, where people were denied CCW permits because unless they could show a valid reason for needing a CCW permit. So, and the valid reason being something that the police chief thought was valid, as opposed to just citizens having that right. So here we have going from gun registration and registering, getting a registration card so you can legally grow like one plant in your backyard, to mandatory gun confiscation. Let's see, quote, when someone applies for a permit to acquire a firearm and they indicate they're a medical marijuana patient, pursuant to a 2011 opinion from the ATF-E, they are no longer qualified to possess a firearm. At that point, we send out the letter telling them their permit to acquire has been denied. If you are in possession of any firearms or ammunition, you need to turn them in, Faria said on Wednesday. Over the course of this past year, I don't recall signing more than one or two of those letters. In other words, he signed so many of those letters, and it just had it copied that he can't possibly remember how many he sent that letter to. He's not saying he didn't send out thousands of letters. He just doesn't remember doing it. Okay. Quote, we do not go out and look for medical marijuana. What is that sound, guys? Sounds like somebody's sliding around in their seat. We do not go out and look for medical marijuana patients. We do not go out and ask anybody for information on medical marijuana patients or send them letters arbitrarily. It's only in conjunction with when they apply for a permit to acquire. Right. So if you want to buy a gun, you have to get a permit in this state. I mean, why isn't the Second Amendment our permit? Why do we need to get a fucking permit in the first place? Why do you need a permit to grow one flipping marijuana plant if you have a medical prescription? Because they passed, okay, and this brings me all the way to my local state legislature representative, who basically, he's the guy who he got paid to present. He was in charge of, since he used to run, be a doctor and in the ER here on the Big Island before he went into politics. He was paid by some large corporation lobbyists to present a bill, forward a bill to permit medical marijuana dispensaries in the state of Hawaii, because although people could get a blue card to buy medical marijuana if their doctor wrote a prescription, there was not one dispensary anywhere in the state where they could actually do so. It's just, so he got it. Basically, the state, the way the bill was written, the corporations have to pay like $300,000 to $500,000 every year they want to renew or apply for a permit, and there's only going to be so many permits issued by the state. So basically, it's only people that can make money for selling marijuana are very large corporations with tons of money. You can't just grow it in your backyard and sell it, because that would be wrong. You have to have a big corporation pay off, write a big check to the state of Hawaii, and then you can sell it. But it's really, and anyway, this was the guy I have a personal grudge against, because I used to go to a local temple for, I guess, Jewish people here called Kona Beth Shalom, and this guy's, he lives up the street on Ali'i. He had I don't know if he sold his place yet, but he had an little oceanfront mansion, I guess, for lack of a better word. And he went to the temple, and his staff took all the names from the temple mailing list and started mailing out his political crap. And he's an anti-gun. He's a gun grabber. So I basically said, take me off your mailing list. I don't want your political stuff. I disagree with you on the Second Amendment. And so please don't send me any more of your stuff. So his staff took me off of his list. They took me off of the temple mailing list also, not just his political list. And that particular temple, there's no physical site. They always had their services at a hotel, and they just sent out emails whenever they had services or for high holidays or whatever. So I couldn't attend, and I really hadn't been going to any temple until I had a medical issue, and I switched islands to Oahu for a couple months, and then I got a visit from the Orthodox Chabad house, Rabbi Itchel over there, and he visited me in the hospital, and I went to I'm not an Orthodox guy. I mean, I'm not, but it was nice for the high holidays to get back in touch with that. Anyway, so since he basically threw me out of the local temple because I wouldn't support his political agenda and campaign, and it's like I don't like the guy, but on top of which, he keeps supporting every anti-gun thing that comes down bill that comes down the pipe. Anyway, but so basically, it's like you need a permit to do anything in this state. You need a permit to grow like one plant if you have a medical condition. I mean, I personally do not do this stuff because not only can I not smoke anything anymore. At this point, I mean, I may have done some crazy things when I was in high school, but I mean, who doesn't? And then you grow up. But I visited like a leather worker friend of mine who did this stuff, who was just specifically he was working on a sheath for one of my knives, and he smokes in his house. And boy, I left with a headache. So I have no desire to do this stuff, but I don't like the government requiring permits for anything. And here's where they specifically just confiscate your firearms. They go from registration, permit registration, to straight to confiscation. Turn in your guns, or we're coming after you. And they try and hedge on it a little. Let's see. September 2011 ATF opinion referred to by Faria said, quote, any person or user who is addicted to marijuana, regardless of his or her state, has passed legislation authorizing marijuana use for medical purposes is prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition. I guess they want to protect us from cancer patients and stuff like that. But I will say that there is, let's see, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the most left-leaning liberal piece of shit on the planet, ruled that August 2016 that banning gun sales to medical marijuana users doesn't violate their Second Amendment right to bear arms. How does that not ban their right? If you ban them from buying guns, how does that not affect their Second Amendment right? I think it basically what the problem is, and what I posted down here in the comments is that I'll scroll down to my particular comment, because there's a Tavor by it. What has happened is that the Attorney General and the politicians in the state legislature were stoned on the day that they taught the Bill of Rights in school, and they think that they can circumvent our Constitution. Deprivations of the people's Second Amendment rights will not make people safe. It puts the innocent at the mercy of criminals. And I have threw in pro-gun meme here, of course. So that's the kind of thing that I always, get up on the local paper and try and do my bit for. In Hawaii, this is the like fake news pretty much, but it's what's happening. This is what we're reduced to in this state, this paper on this island. So. The letter also referred to Hawaii Revised Statutes 134-7, which states, quote, any person disqualified from ownership, possession, or control of firearms and ammunition must dispose of all firearms and ammunition within 30 days. So if you just apply for a permit and they deny you because you had a medical marijuana, which is in the state archives, if you apply for a state medical marijuana permit, the state knows about it. So all they have to do is cross-reference your medical marijuana card, and so it basically is going to push everyone underground for marijuana that needs it for medical reasons. But I will say that doctors do come out to Hawaii from the mainland, and they just pay for their vacation by writing several hundred medical marijuana prescriptions to anybody that wants one. So now I have no desire to ever smoke marijuana myself, but I do have a desire for the people to be free. Here's continuing on. It says, in addition to surrendering guns and ammunition to the police, the law allows for the items to be sold to a licensed gun dealer or transferred to any person who meets the requirements for gun ownership or possession. Failure to do so, quote, failure to do so may result in seizure of the firearms and ammunition and criminal prosecution under Chapter 134 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. So what do you guys think of this? Thank you for that insightful comment. Oh, that's an interesting thing in the. Can you distill soybeans into whiskey? Probably. Yeah. I don't have a distillery, but I think Dusty does. All right. So let's see if I could find the show. So.
Jesse says he thinks it puts your gun rat back list to good use now.
Well, that's a federal. The FBI doesn't check your state marijuana card.
Or do they?
I don't know.
Interesting. That's called a blue card.
Well, the FBI stands for From Big Island around here. So who knows? Speaking of the FBI, I think you need to put up a different screen share for that one. Let's see if I can find it. Right. So fake news. There's our fake news story. If I could find my newsreel sound. Right. Okay, so the Dow crashed a bunch of points a couple of days ago when the story came out that an ABC reporter put out that Michael Flynn was going to testify about Donald Trump, against Donald Trump, asking him to talk to the Russians while he was campaigning. When the truth was, it was in the transition, and when that's what he's supposed to do, is talk to. The law says the new president is supposed to talk to foreign leaders and stuff like that. So the news story was bullshit, and it tanked the market, which has recovered since then. But it caused a little panic, and a lot of people lost some money. And I guess a few people made some money because there's always two sides to a trade. Anyway, today the market closed at a record high. The Dow Jones was up a couple hundred points. The S&P, they're at all-time record highs, and the P&E, price to earnings ratio, are in definite bubble territory. And one can hope that it's been going up because the tax cuts being kind of passed. They're going into reconciliation between the House and the Senate. There's a few differences between them. And boy, if anybody watched the sausage making on C-SPAN of the last day of the Senate arguing over it on the Senate floor, the only points that the Democrats made that made any sense to me was that they held up page 257, and basically the Republicans had crossed out what was typed in text, and they wrote some handwritten chicken scratch on the side that was like partially, only half of it was there because it was outside like the scanning area of the page, so nobody knew what it actually said because it was illegible. It should at least be legible before they vote on it. So I don't know how all that worked out, because I just basically turned on Nat Geo Wild and watched lions and leopards and cheetahs, because at least they fight fair. More or less. Let's see, what other fake news? Oh, Saudi Arabia. It turns out that the missile that the Yemenis fired in the general direction of the capital, Saudi city of Riyadh, that it was first reported that it was shot at the airport in Riyadh, but what they were aiming for was the nuclear facility. And because I didn't even know that Saudi Arabia had a nuclear power plant, but apparently they do. And that's what the Yemeni rebels were aiming at. The colonel had over there of the Houthis, the people that are fighting backed by Iran, the Saudis, said that's what they were aiming for, had a news conference. which doesn't make any sense, because if your next door neighbor works in a nuclear power plant and you want to take out your next door neighbor, you don't try and blow up the power plant, because you're going to get irradiated along with him. I mean, so, but I guess when you're in a war, it doesn't have to make sense. You just, which almost brings us to our midget subs. But so I'm going to get off of that news and get on to the other news, which is also was kind of fake news, because I was watching the American Heroes channel the other night, and they had something on the Pearl Harbor, because we're really close to December 7th. And in 1941, a date that will live in infamy, Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Imperial Japanese Empire. And what was on the American Heroes channel was that there was they had recovered a World War II captured Japanese propaganda film, which basically this movie, which was played for Japanese propaganda effect in Japan, had put forward. The plot was that these midget submarines sank the Arizona, not the dive bombers and torpedo planes from the carrier task force that bombed Pearl Harbor. And I guess it made for good propaganda. And from the Japanese point of view, I guess it really wouldn't matter if you were just trying to buck up your civilian population, and whether it was sunk by a sub or an airplane. It was just that they were showing their military in a good patriotic light to their population. And then I think Squibb had posted me some stuff about the World War II attack, and with postulating whether midget subs, one sub snuck into Pearl Harbor. And there was a really good video. Let me see if I can find the screen share of that or play the video. Let's see. It's hard to have like a million screen shares up all at once. I guess, but there was a great video that that I don't know if he wants to play it or anything, of NOAA of last year's, the 75th, was the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor last year. And somebody did the math.
It would have been last year, yeah.
Yeah, and of that, they had a NOAA survey ship take some underwater pictures of the midget sub that was sunk by the USS Ward a few miles outside the entrance to the harbor. And I guess now it's a war grave and a war monument, and it's obviously underwater. And let's see if I can find, see, who would be under M for midget sub, or my download folder is out of control. Here it is. Open with Windows. No, that's the wrong thing. If you don't open it with the right thing, then you can't share it in a Hangout. But let's see. There it is. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Right. So this is underwater. Obviously, it's a submarine, and it was sunk, so it's going to be underwater. And it's a war grave. Obviously, now the Japanese are our friends, which is, it really sucks when you have to like have a world war before you can be friends. But that's the way the world was. The Japanese signed the first mistake they made was signing a tripartite Axis pact with Hitler and Mussolini, and then things went downhill from there. And karma is a bitch when it comes back. And most of the carriers that attacked Pearl Harbor were sunk at the Battle of Midway, and the surviving carriers were sunk at when they at the Marianas, was the Marianas Turkey shoot, or when they invaded the Philippines to recapture the Philippines, because the Japanese had lost all their pilots, all the best pilots, so they just used the carriers as bait to lure Halsey away from the landing force, which worked, and they attacked from the south. The carriers were in the north, and they lured away most of the fleet to chase them. And losing the carriers would have been irrelevant to the Japanese, because they didn't have any pilots anyway that were any good left. So, but if you're an admiral and you see carriers, you attack, I guess, and that's what Halsey did, and that was probably a mistake. But that was the famous time when, I guess, Task Force Taffy 3, or what was it, that fought off the Japanese battleships with a couple escort carriers and some very small destroyers, and managed to win in that strategic victory. And that all the battleships turned around, and they could have just sailed right on and just blew up the entire invasion force and landing force if they would have kept coming. But they made such a big stink with all their aircraft and torpedoes from the destroyers that it was David versus Goliath. Yeah.
Do we know what sub this is?
There were 5 midget subs. My understanding from the history of watching the video that Squib sent me is that there were about 5 midget subs sent from I-20, the main sub, the mother sub. And
No, there were 5 mother subs and 5 midgets. Each mother sub carried 1 midget. This one is designation is HA-20. It's a Type A midget sub.
Okay, I'll put the video in the video description after the show if anybody wants to watch it later that Squib sent me. But it's definitely worth looking at, just the underwater footage of this. And there's on the other side, or is it on this side? It's kind of dark in this frame. This sub was shelled, and there's a hole right in the side, and
pull your cursor down to your right, straight up, back to the left. You're all over. Never mind. Can I screen share?
Yes, you may.
Right.
Let me put you on. I'll present you once. Let me get over to where it's supposed to be. You screen share. I'll hit the present to everyone button. Okay, I have you on present to everyone. No, you're muted though. I'll unmute you.
And I still have this. Clint Eastwood imitation.
Oh, now he's gone.
Whoa! Hey, he's like me. He does what I do. Okay.
Yeah, he had the vertigo. We had vertigo.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, it reminds me of when I shorted Apple computers, and they kept playing that song on the business channels, because I shorted Apple computers.
Oh, here we go again.
I'm trying to unmute. So here's the sub. Here's another angle of the sub. This is the other side of the sub. So let's see here if I can. Let me scroll through. I've got all these pictures. There we go. All right. So this is where the sub was. This is where it was found. So straight off of Pearl Harbor. And yep, here's the hole. So that's from a 4-inch gun. It's from a 4-inch deck gun. Here's and
they also depth charged it after that.
Yep. So you can see both the torpedoes are in the tubes still. And there's the prop in the back there. And let's see here. Looking for it. Here, let me scroll through. So there is the gun that put that hole in that ship.
From the war?
This is the gun from the ward. This is mount number 3, and this is the one that put that hole in that midget sub. This is in St. Paul, Minnesota today. So there it is right there. It's near the Capitol building. So here is Battleship Row, and right here is the midget sub firing the torpedo.
So the question I had based on what I saw on the American Heroes channel, was this picture from the movie, the propaganda movie that Japanese made?
No, this is a still picture from a Japanese airplane, one of the few still pictures and movies. Some of the footage and images of this attack were lost. When they sank the carriers later, some of those carriers still carried the original footage from the gun cameras and things like that. So this is one of the ones that survived the war. So you can see right here this big wave moving away from the West Virginia. You can see the big splash, and there's this wave. This is from the concussion, and this is the midget sub. And
yeah, so you can explain why the whole way. You can see how the wave spread out towards where the sub is, and the theory is that the sub was lifted out of the water by these waves, and that splash behind the submarine is the back of the sub coming out of the water. What's that called? A rooster splash?
They called a rooster tail. Yeah.
Rooster tail splash. Instead of, if it was a torpedo, it would be the water would be going forward in the direction that the torpedo was going, because when it hits the water, that's the kind of splash it makes.
Right. Whole different type of splash when it's coming off the aircraft hitting the water. And the torpedoes the aircraft were using were about 1/4 the size of the torpedoes from the midget subs. So they've got a lot more power, these midget sub torpedoes. And when it does fire a torpedo, it rocks the whole dang thing, because it's losing, I think, like 1,000 pounds of weight in the front each one it fires, and it had 2. So let's see. This is a midget sub. Let me get a better. All right. So here is the same kind. This is a Type A. This is number 8. So this is HA8, and you can see the 2 torpedoes up front. And there's a sail just like on a regular submarine. This picture I took back in April when we went to Groton, Connecticut. This one was captured and taken on tour to
war bonds.
And it wasn't the only one that was captured and taken on tour for war bonds, but it is one of them, and it's preserved at the museum. You can see here's another angle. It's quite long. But I would not want to be down in there. That's awful tight in there.
Yeah, and the pictures you saw of the underwater sub, that's a war grave. Somebody died in there. There's a dead body in there.
And that's the same.
What's
that?
Where was the gun fired from? You showed a picture of the gun from.
The gun was fired from the USS Ward. Let me take you to a picture of the Ward. So here's the USS Ward. Not a very big destroyer. But this is the ship that sank HA, what did I say was HA-20? So one of the midget subs. And this ship fired the first shot of World War II in the Pacific for America. So we actually fired the first shot before the first torpedo or bomb was dropped in Pearl Harbor. They engaged the sub before the aircraft made it to Pearl Harbor. So the Ward was actually sank by kamikazes later on. And so here is the prop on the back of the midget sub. You see how big it is, and it's in this cage. And that's what's going to cause that rooster tail when it pitches upward. So either from the concussion or from the torpedoes letting loose, it's going to pitch upward. And when that thing kicks out of the water, it'll be half in the water and half in the air. It's going to make that splash pattern. You can see head on the torpedoes. I mean, they're pretty big. So, and then here we go. During World War II, Type A, 2-man, blah, blah, carried piggyback on a mothership, etc. So here are this is a Japanese, like a war memorial for the crewmen for the midget subs that attacked Pearl Harbor. And there's 2 crewmen and a sub, 5 subs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's the 10th guy? The 10th guy was taken out because he dishonored himself. The 10th guy was actually captured alive. And it wasn't because he surrendered. He was actually, I think, unconscious when they captured him. And the Japanese would not recognize him. They actually took his picture out of this memorial that they did because none of them survived except the one guy, and he was our very first prisoner of war. And here is his sub, and this is, I believe it's HA-19. So it was actually, it grounded itself several times, and finally it got stuck on the beach.
Yeah. I just wanted to say really quickly here that the original Hawaii Five-0 with Jack Lord did a episode on this, and the Japanese commander submariner was played by Ricardo Montalban, and it was, if you like 60s Hawaii Five-0 shows, then you could look for that episode on the internet. Or anyway, go ahead.
Well, it was disabled. The subs only had so much power. They had all these batteries in the back. They had rows and rows of batteries in the back, so it was just battery powered, and they had a limited supply. And they took on a lot of seawater, and they tried to destroy it with scuttling charges, and it didn't work. They think the seawater made them inoperable. And the one guy, he was unconscious half the time they were out there because he was overtaken by the fumes. So the other guy had to try to operate the sub alone, and it kept getting grounded and things like that. So one of them jumped out and drowned, and the other one jumped out and washed ashore, and they captured him. And this shows here the ward and the showing the USS Antares. It looks like it's towing a target barge, which they would tow for another ship to shoot at to practice for gun practice. And they spotted the sub, and the ward moves in, and then, like you were saying, afterward they start depth charging. So, and then the midget sub that was in Pearl Harbor, there were 2 that made it into the harbor, and one of them was able to cut free its torpedoes. And this is the USS West Virginia before World War II. And that was the one that they believe was hit. And you can see after it was they raised the ship, and they modernized it, rebuilt it, and it served in World War II, and it kept on fighting. And the ward was sunk by kamikazes. So here's the West Virginia after it sank. So this is after the damage from 1 or 2 torpedoes. I think they said it was 1, and it fired another one at something else. And then what other picture did I have? Okay, so that one that I showed on the beach, the one that prisoner of war number 1 was taken or captured from, this is the sub. This is in Texas today. And that man has come back and visited this sub. He even though he's deceased now, there was I found something that said that he eventually got to see his submarine again. This one was also taken around on war bond tours to raise money to fight the war. So I believe there's one in Hawaii. Isn't there, over on Oahu?
I have not been myself. My father has been, but I have not been to the Pacific Museum and Memorial yet. But I do plan on going as soon as possible. I'm going to get over there, and I'm not going to do it on December 7th. Everything is really busy on there that day, but I will make it over to the Arizona and the air. I think it's the Air Museum of the Pacific.
Well, I believe they have both a midget sub and a chiton, which is the torpedo, the suicide torpedo, that it looks like a sub, but it's really a torpedo with a guy in it to steer it. So, and the midget subs were not suicide. I mean, a lot of guys died in them, but they weren't meant for that. They were supposed to return to the mothership. None of the 5 that we used at Pearl Harbor did return to the mothership, though. And the irony is the USS West Virginia was sunk by a torpedo from a submarine. And today, the USS West Virginia is a submarine.
Well,
That's the current Ohio class USS West Virginia. So, yeah. So that's all I had. Where's the
and what's that ship right there? What's that? Okay, let me see if I can.
Wait, let me go back. Share. Yeah, what? This?
Yeah, which
This
that's a West Virginia.
USS. That's the West Virginia after they raised it and modernized it and used it in the war. So this is in 1944. That other picture I showed was
So
from
the
the 20s, I
Arizona
think.
was the one ship that could not be raised because its hull was cracked in half. So there's no way to raise it, and because it was cracked completely in half from the explosion.
And you would think I would know which one is the Arizona in here, and it's going to be one of these battle wagons. But honestly, I don't know which one it is. This. No, not that one because that's West Virginia. This or this. The rest of those are auxiliaries and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Which brings us to like the next war. I mean, every time somebody attacks America, they get pounded. So it's like, I guess people don't study history that lead nations, but every time they attack America, they just get pounded, and so it's like you'd have to be stupid to do it, but it's like, is North Korea gonna go for a EMP over mainland? And
well, that's a whole different kind of war.
well, I know, but all wars really. I mean, I just don't want anybody to think that if there is a war with Korea, that it'll be easy, and that it'll be a breeze through, because it won't. I mean, if I don't know what the response would be if America used nuclear weapons on North Korea from China and Russia. I have no idea what they would do.
Why would we use nuclear weapons?
Because sending a conventional army to fight a brainwashed army that has been brainwashed from birth, ever since they pop out of their mama's womb, that America is the evil. They're well armed. They've got plenty of ammo and tons of artillery pieces, and they aren't going to just roll over and die. And if you send in conventional troops, can I ask you a question? You were in the Marines. Did they train you when you were in the Marines to fight a conventional war against North Korea? Did you receive any training for that kind of thing?
Actually, they were still doing some of the Vietnam training when I was in. Even though Desert Storm was over, we still had some of the stuff for fighting the Vietnamese. So it was kind of weird. See a little target pop up and he looks like NVA with an AK. But the whole thing about Korea is that we've got the capability to handle it. And if we went in there in a conventional sense, it would be easier to deal with. And just you don't want to use a nuclear weapon, period. You want to have them as a deterrent, and you only want to use them as a last resort. To all these people that say, "Oh, we'll just do a limited strike." No, you don't fire off one. The minute you fire off one nuclear weapon, period, even a tactical nuke.
Okay, but I just want to say
you become the world's bad guy.
When you use the word easy, and which you did in association with attacking North Korea conventionally, I don't see that.
We have the capability. We absolutely have the capability to do.
But you just said you didn't do any training to attack. I mean, you're talking a mountainous country. Yeah.
No, because they're not a threat.
Well, apparently they are now. Apparently they are.
We do not need a nuclear weapon to handle North Korea.
We don't need a nuclear weapon to handle North Korea. And if we used one nuclear weapon, even a small one, we've become the world's bad guy. And I know you said, oh, we're the world's bad guy already. All right, fine. We're going to become even worse because the people who are our friends won't be our friends if we use a nuclear weapon. Now, if we go in there with a conventional force, then it's going to take a lot more time than using a nuclear weapon. And we're going to catch a lot of crap while we're doing it. both at home and abroad.
We're going to catch a lot of crap if a war breaks out.
You do not want to release any nuclear material into the atmosphere, period. You do not want to use nuclear weapons, even on military, just strictly military targets. You just don't want to do it. You have them. You have them because your enemies have them. You have them because your enemies will know if they use them on you, you will use them on them. Mutual assured destruction. That's what you had them for. If they start unleashing nuclear weapons, it's over.
We learned our lesson using that back in, when we did it.
Well, but when we did it, how many lives were saved? Because people say, "Oh, it was such a bad thing that we used nuclear weapons." But X Day, the plan for X Day would have been
lost also.
Well,
if you look back,
if you look at what we did, if you look at what we did, we saved more lives by using the 2 bombs at the end of the war. But if you look at a modern nuclear weapon, it's 1,000 times stronger. You also have to understand that nobody had ever used one of these things before then, ever. And it was so terrible. We ended the war with it, but it was so terrible. No, to this day, 75 years later, whatever, or 70 years later, nobody wants to use them.
Because we created total terror.
Nobody wants war, period, I guess. But
you also have to think about the material you're throwing up in the atmosphere and which way does the wind blow. And you'll get it before we do, Hawaii.
Well, yeah. On the 1st of December, we had the siren here in Hawaii. They unveiled their new nuclear siren, nuclear attack siren. So basically, if there's missiles incoming, we'll get a siren that goes. Instead of they play the regular civilian defense alert that they play like if there's a tsunami or something. They go, and that's it. And the nuclear attack siren is, it's like if you get pulled over by a cop car kind of sound. And so we have a special nuclear attack siren that they played on the 1st, right after because they always play it on the 1st of the month. They sound this alert siren as a test. So we have a nuclear attack siren sound, but. Yeah, it won't be easy. I don't think handling North Korea in a conventional sense will be easy. You say we have the capability to handle it. How do you handle like a 6 million man under arms with AKs? I mean, really?
Okay, you got to understand that they don't have the latest and greatest equipment. Still, one man with a gun or a grenade is dangerous. They also don't have the latest and greatest training. Still, one man with a gun or grenade is dangerous. They don't have food. One hungry man, you know what? Just throw some food out of your fighting hole and watch them run out and go to eat it, and then just pick them off one at a time.
I don't think they're quite that stupid.
Dusty, can I borrow some soybeans?
I don't think people. Sure. How many do you want? But
6 million.
Go back to the Desert War. How many of us knew at that time we had Scuds? That we could knock those missiles out of the sky. Don't you think we have something similar now?
Well, these aren't Scuds. Scuds are not. They're a completely different animal than ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles.
That's outdated technology, but don't you think we have something upgraded that will do the same thing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
We did. We used to. And we dismantled it because the threat from Russia went away. We could actually, if we replicated our 1958 anti-ballistic missile technology, we could stop the North Koreans. Our 1958 technology.
Well, all of these things cost money, and in case you haven't noticed, these things depend. I mean, the military runs on the U.S. military runs on the U.S. economy, and I mean, obviously the Dow Jones hit a new high today, but the Dow Jones is not the economy. if you have a 401k and you have some stocks, you're probably feeling pretty happy. But it can go down just as fast as it can go up, probably faster. And I just, with the deficit spending the way it is, I mean, I was hoping they could build us some AT-ATs.
They should. Why don't they just contract out Lockheed Martin and then we're good to go, right? Stewart and Stevenson could build them, or that's BAE Systems now. They could build them.
Right. So I wanted to ask you on this AT-AT here. Now it looks to me like, okay, here's the main laser cannons and the heavy laser cannons in the middle, and these are the medium blasters. But this looks like a minigun up here over the medium blaster on the left side of the cockpit up here. Does that look like a minigun to you over the blaster?
It could be. I mean, give Industrial Light and Magic a call. I'm sure you got a few friends over there.
No, I don't have any friends in the film industry. I never did. I had business associates who pretended to be my friend because they either needed me or for what I did. Anyway, it's a whole other mess. So yeah, I just think that this was obviously a shock and awe weapon in the Star Wars trilogy, and I guess they keep making these movies because Lucasfilm sold the rights to a Disney. But it's like I just can't imagine if the North Koreans saw these like a couple dozen of these things coming over the DMZ, they would probably just flee or surrender. But it would be quite a project to build something that big. But let's see if I could find the screen share for it. Let's see, where's the video for that thing? Right, here it is. Okay. All right, so here is, so the North Koreans see these things coming over the ridge, and they don't run.
Boom, boom, boom.
And they don't have these things in North Korea. They don't have that kind of aircraft.
Yeah, the North Koreans don't have speeders. And if they did, they'd be a North Korean copy of a Chinese knockoff of a half-assed Russian one from the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just that if these things started marching across the DMZ, I don't think the North Koreans would, they would just surrender. And that's why they built these things, is that even in the movies, people surrendered if these things are coming at you, you aren't going to try and fight them. You're just going to run.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if we go into North Korea, it's not going to be easy in the sense that it'll be over in a week, and it's definitely not going to be easy. The backlash we are going to get.
And people will get killed. Soldiers will get killed.
That happens in training, man. It happens all the time. People, that's what, it's part of the job. It's not, nobody wants it, but it's part of the job.
Getting killed isn't much of a job.
Scrib needs to build one of those, though. That would be fun to cruise my farm with.
Oh, I'm not a fabricator. I could fix it once you get somebody to build it. I'll fix it. I fix things. I don't make them. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My farm with.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would mess up all what about soil erosion? Wouldn't that like mess up your soil, having that thing shake up several tons of?
Yeah.
I mean, those things must weigh a ton.
I don't think that sink though.
You would definitely leave deep depressions in the ground around here.
Well, the seismic energy of that thing just stomping around would like upturn every plant that you were trying to grow.
You know, the North Korean problem could have been handled if they had just done like what Sam Kinison said in Back to School. You know, he was talking about pushing them all the way back to China or whatnot. I know that they were worried that if we did that, we would bring in China and then we could bring in Russia. Well, China and Russia were already fighting on the North Korean side, and we didn't find out until later. Well, we found out that the Chinese were in there, but we didn't find out about the Russians in there until later. But
well, who they were the people flying the MiGs. I mean,
yeah, those were Russians. Yeah. But the whole thing is, to this day, we still have to worry about that. But you also have to think, does China really want to fight us? They make so much money off of us.
Well, they get North Korea to fight us. It's North Korea. They want to control the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we went into North Korea and they didn't have Russia or China crossing the river to come into their country to protect them, and it's just us versus them, then yes, it wouldn't be over quick, but it wouldn't last and last and last. Now, if we did some sort of weird limited this, that, or the other, and okay, then it's going to last years. If we handle it like the 1950s, then it will last for years. If we get the UN involved, it'll last for years. I'm sure that if we went in there, there would be a lot of our friends would turn on us on record, not turn on us like attack us, but they would chastise us for it. But now, if we used a nuke, they'd definitely turn on us.
Well, but Britain chastised Trump today because she didn't like his tweet. So, Margaret, what's her? Theresa May, right? Go ahead, Dusty.
The problem we have is we let it grow for 8 years. Handle it for 8 years. President that is willing to handle it. So, it's kind of like you let something grow for 8 years. Now it is a bigger problem to handle.
Yep.
What is that missile you're screen sharing there, Swift?
That's how you stop a North Korean ICBM, sir.
With something that stand that it's on looks like it's from the 50s.
It is. We don't even have these in our inventory anymore, but this missile could take out an ICBM. The problem is, if you have an ICBM with multiple reentry vehicles, the nuclear blast from this missile would actually stop all the missiles behind it from being able to acquire their targets. So,
right. Well, the problem is you guys on the mainland are going to be in trouble because that's it. They don't need a reentry vehicle to initiate an EMP attack on the mainland, and so many Americans would die if the grid went down. It's you guys on the mainland are going to have a big problem.
Nah, we're
They'll
good.
wipe out the islands first.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
The islands are gone first.
Yeah, no, he'll just get cut off. He'll be like Britain in World War II,
I'll be waiting for you guys. I'll be waiting for that package of freeze-dried Mountain House food.
Dusty, when we finally get to Hawaii, we finally get out there to see if there's any survivors. We're just going to find an empty condo with a bunch of Bitcoin all over the place.
That's not worth anything.
Well, it's worth like 11. Last time before the show, I looked. It was $11,500. It's been going up and up and up and up.
Back up again. Okay, you're saying it's worth 1,100 and something.
11,500 per coin.
What are you comparing that to?
That's just the chart of the exchange of what it trades for.
Yes, but what is that number?
11,500. That's what you can get in US dollars for one Bitcoin.
Oh, so now the US dollar has some value.
Not really. It's going down and down.
Oh, okay. So it has no value. So what's Bitcoin's value? I stumped you.
Bitcoin is its own. It exists all by itself. It doesn't need a U.S. dollar. You could get a lot of rubles for. You want to go to fiat currency versus Bitcoin? Okay.
So what's Bitcoin's value?
I could buy a lot of gold eagles with 1 Bitcoin. I could trade. It's a commodity. It's a currency. It's kind of a currency. It's kind of a commodity.
You can buy something with that Bitcoin.
Okay, I can do that.
Do you want to trade it for North Korean won? It's worth 1/10 of 1 U.S. penny.
Okay, so I know Squib, you buy gold and silver, right? So we're into the crypto part of the show. So
just silver. We're not rich enough over here for gold, you know.
Here's where I annihilate my panelists. Here's where I annihilate my panelists. Here's where I annihilate my panelists. So you want me to find somewhere where I can buy some gold and silver with Bitcoin? Sure, no problem. I'm doing that right now. Let's see. I got to punch up any gold or silver website, and I have so many damn cryptocurrencies in my banking folder bookmarks. Let's see. Provident Metals or JM Bullion. Come on, it's got to be around here. Money Metals.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I need to check Provident's site.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my link for Provident Metals. Here it is. This looks like it.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Here it is.
Dusty, we can hear you.
I was trying to answer the telephone, and it was just
So I'm screen sharing Provident Metals here. I'll just hit present for a moment. Now, okay, let's see what they got here. Let's go to something. Let's click on gold. Right, see what they've got here.
All right, I like gold.
American Gold Eagles.
How about soy?
Now I'm going to click on a 2018 American Gold Eagle. These are the pre-sales. And you'll notice that they have the price in US dollars, in Bitcoin, and then for a credit card. So this is for US dollars, it's a wire, like a bank. If you write them a check or do a wire transfer. For Bitcoin, it's $13.58 for each one, in the equivalent amount of Bitcoin that's worth that much money. And for credit card, it's $1,400. So from the credit card price, you get a pretty substantial discount if you pay in Bitcoin. You'll get more if you write them a check, but checks take forever. You got to send it in. They hold it till it clears, and then it's with Bitcoin.
Wait. I'm looking at a I'm looking at a 1 kilo gold bullion bar, and it costs $500 more, well, $450 more if you use Bitcoin. So what are you talking about?
What are you talking? Are you looking at the bank wire charge or the credit price?
Cash 41,485, Bitcoin 41,917.
Let me do the screen share so I can get your.
So is
you want me
Bitcoin less than cash?
Okay, let's try to do this.
Bitcoin is faster than cash, and it's slow as shit, but it's faster.
Can you see this? Yes. Can you see this? Okay, 41,485 for cash.
No, that's for a check.
No, that's cash, man.
No,
that's cash discount price. See right there.
If you show up at their store,
cash.
If you show up at their store, and it takes about like 4 weeks for them to have to clear. You have to mail them a check.
It's instant. I can do it.
Yeah.
You're gonna wire them. You're gonna wire them the money.
Bank wire right here. Bank wire to pay your order.
But bank wires cost money.
Look, apparently I'm loaded if I'm buying gold. But look at this. It says, and the shitcoin price is $450 more.
And if you pay for it with a credit card, it's $43,000 instead of $42,000.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if you're trying to rack up those airline miles, just saying,
it's cheaper than if you buy it with a credit card. It's $1,200 more.
Stop.
You've got vertigo.
Stop sharing. Stop it.
All right. Well, I can't be everywhere at once to click on every button.
No.
Jesus fuck.
All I'm saying is just.
So what Bitcoin is a public ledger, right? All it is instead of the dollar where they can just print up as many US dollars as they want by opening their laptop and typing 100000000, and they could just add $1 trillion into a bank account. And that's how that's how banks create money. They just type it into an account. Okay, and so with Bitcoin, there's a hard limit. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be minted. So far, there's like 16 or 17 million of them out.
Says who?
The algorithm. Math. Says math. Can't you please stop talking like a second grader? Says who? That's an algorithm.
Says who?
That's a mathematical algorithm. 21 million is the maximum amount of Bitcoins that can ever be minted. It will not, that you can't mint more than 21 million Bitcoins. There's a hard limit.
That's not what your video you sent me said.
Well, you didn't watch it all the way through, I guess. Did you watch Cliff High's video all the way through, or did you just call him a name and stop watching after half an hour? Because that's what you said, but you told me you stopped watching after half an hour.
You actually stayed awake for half an hour on that?
Other half hour, but after that, I kind of...
You called him a name, and then you moved on.
did you think that was a half hour of your life you could never get back?
Yes, I did. You are right.
So what Bitcoin is, it's basically it's basically a public accounting ledger. So if I want to send Squib 1 Bitcoin,
no thanks, I'll pass.
Okay, well, I'm not going to send you one because it's too valuable. I don't like you $12,000 worth. So, but anyway, the mining computers that mine this stuff will basically look to see at the blockchain ledger and see if I have a Bitcoin to send you, and then if I do, it'll subtract 1 from me and at my address and add that to your address, and then it takes something called that the National Security Administration developed. An encryption algorithm called the SHA-256 algorithm, called the SHA-256 algorithm, and it encrypts the accounting ledger. And all that's left, if anybody ever tried to hack it, is just digital noise, basically, and that's called hashing. And so when I'm mining, or anybody's computer is mining Bitcoin, beside from checking the blockchain to make sure that everything is valid, then and I didn't just try and hack it. Basically, it confirms the accounting and then it encrypts everything, and it's called hashing. So that's why when you like go to a cloud mining operation, they'll sell you a certain amount of hash power, but so it's all that's left are these hashes, and it's just an encryption of an accounting ledger. And basically the way this equation is written, once they hit 21 million coins, there aren't going to be any more coins ever printed. And with fiat currencies like the US dollar, what happens, and I explained this on another show, and Dusty even agreed that what happens is the US Treasury writes a treasury bond for 1 trillion. All the banks show up, they bid on it, and they buy it for like $1 trillion, and they run down to the Federal Reserve, who buys it for $1 trillion plus like 1.5% over that. So just like an hour or less than an hour after the banks bought it, the Fed pays them more, except they pay them with a check from an account that doesn't have any money in it, and they issue the banks a check, but there's no money behind it, and they take the bond and they put it what's called the Federal Reserve balance sheet, and they do that with corporate bonds too. And then the banks take this check that doesn't have any money behind it from the Federal Reserve, and they go to and create something called banking security. They open their laptop and they type $1 trillion in, and bang.
When has the banks ever bought this?
Oh, it's every day at the open market banking auctions.
Bank is buying Bitcoin.
Oh, banks are buying. Oh, you're talking about Bitcoin. I thought you were talking about U.S. Treasury bonds. Sorry.
Well, once again, you're exchanging your fake money for real money, though.
Well, we're talking about U.S. dollars. So the whole point is we're talking about digital currency. Digital currency. The U.S. dollar is mostly digital currency. They don't print up paper money for every dollar. They just type it into a computer. So, I mean, and the whole thing that happened here was that, as that video explained that I sent you, Dusty, was that a long time ago, thousands of years ago, the Chinese invented paper money. And so instead of having to carry gold around from place to place, you could have this piece of paper that said, you could take this into our big building that has all the gold there and get your gold out of it. And so that way you don't have to have armed guards, a horse and a cart, and you could take your wealth around with you, and it's just on a piece of paper. And then what they did is, instead of being able to exchange it, now you can't exchange it anymore. We're going to keep the gold and you can't have any, but you can have this piece of paper instead. And now they just keep printing up, instead of paper, it's just digital ones and zeros. All they have to do is open their laptop, and they don't even bother to print the money, because it's too much trouble. If you want to pay somebody in China for something, it's too much trouble to mail them an envelope stuffed with $100 bills. You could just send them some US dollars, except the banks take a cut, the regulators take a cut, everybody takes it. If you just send them Bitcoin, it's also a digital currency, and it cuts out, people are using it to escape government regulation, banking regulations, and just avoiding the whole fiat currency catastrophe. And when we hit a currency crisis, the way things are going, the way they're printing up money for this latest tax cut, and just government spending in general, it basically,
right.
As I explained to my father, he said, well, why don't you just sell all your Bitcoin? I was like, why would I want to sell it? It keeps going up and up and up. A couple of, like last week, it was 9,000. And then like a few days later, it was 10,000 and then 11,000. And then like last night, it was almost 12,000. And right before the show, it was 11,500 for one Bitcoin. And it keeps going up and up and up in value. So why would I want to sell my Bitcoin? I don't.
It's a dream, but okay, now.
I'm going to disinvite you from my infinity pool.
and if you ever get that infinity pool, to you. My question is, okay, SHS, the shit hits the fan. All right, I have, let's say, I got a bushel of beans, green beans.
Well, Dusty, if there's a nuclear war and the grid goes down, we're going to have a lot bigger problems than what currency we use. You're going to have, the grid goes down, people will be dying.
Some people, not all people.
You think you're going to be exempt?
Here.
Yeah, we got this end covered.
My property. We have a gallon of gas. You have no electricity. You have nothing.
What do you mean I have nothing?
All right. Well, because your island is underwater. Okay?
How did my island get underwater all of a sudden?
Everybody stood on one side and it flipped over.
The Megalodon is going to attack.
You have Bitcoin to trade to me and Squib.
Well, I could send it to you if the grid was up, but the whole problem is the grid is down. So it's not going to matter. If the grid goes down...
What's it going to do for us if you send it to us? I mean, we need something to barter with.
Yeah.
Well, you could buy things with Bitcoin now. Amazon's going to be taking Bitcoin. Apple's going to be taking Bitcoin. Google's going to be taking Bitcoin.
Amazon and Apple will not be there.
Well, if the shit hits the fan, like I said, you're going to have a lot worse problems to deal with people than whether or not there's the U.S. dollar or Bitcoin is worth anything.
You are going to need physical, which than a loaf of bread. Barter with you for a loaf of bread. I mean, you are.
Well, you're talking about Mad Max. If the Mad Max world occurs, then yeah, Bitcoin won't matter.
You're
You're talking about you're talking about Mad Max scenarios. Okay, the shit hits the fan, then the dollar won't matter, money won't matter. It'll be the gyro captain and war rigs and nothing will matter. Hell, you won't even bug out, so you'll be dead.
But what is Bitcoin going to do in that situation? I mean, that even the guy that was on your video, he kept pushing that to the world situation.
Yeah, well, you're describing an end of the world situation. If the world ends, then nothing matters.
But that's what your guy on that video described it as.
No, he didn't. He was
watch your
describing.
video again.
It's not my video. It's the video I sent you. It's Cliff High. He kind of explained how the concept of Bitcoin works. And so I thought you might be interested in a rational explanation of it, which he gave. And if you just, I mean, you sent me a text saying he was a fruit, and you stopped listening after half an hour. So I figured that's like, okay, you don't want to have a rational discussion. You just want to do like, I'm going to call him a second grade insult, and that's that. so
which he fit that technology. So
a fruit. He's a fruit.
that's what Dusty sent me a text saying. That guy's a fruit. But he didn't like come up with a rational argument. I mean, he still hasn't come up with a rational argument.
You mean the guy pushing the Bitcoin? You're right. It isn't a rational argument.
No, Dusty hasn't come up with a rational argument, and neither have you. Give me one rational argument why Bitcoin is worth nothing, because the entire planet disagrees with you.
But I'm used to the entire planet disagreeing with me. It's all right.
Me too.
I can hold my own. As long as I got reload supplies, I'm good.
Nobody's saying you shouldn't have. It's not either or. It's like I can have gold and silver and Bitcoin and ammo and guns and freeze-dried food, but hell, I don't want to go into the future without any Bitcoin. So and if every bank around you closes, then you're just going to be and there's a currency and banking crisis, which this country is on the edge of. I mean, if that happens and every bank around you closes and money as you know it ceases to be of any use, look at Venezuela. If you want to go with the local currency in Venezuela and buy a sandwich, you better have Bitcoin, because nobody's going to give you a fucking sandwich.
No way. I got a credit card from Ruger that'll open anything.
All right. Why will you sell me?
I'm not going to sell you any Bitcoin.
You've got to barter for it.
How much will you sell me for 1,000?
I suggest you go on Coinbase and buy whatever you can while you can. It's going up and up and up.
Until it gets counterfeited.
It can't be counterfeited.
Yeah.
It's a consensus. All computers all over the world have to agree. It can't be counterfeited.
Investment. So how much can I buy for $10 1,000?
Why don't you go on Coinbase and find out? Why ask me? I'm not a walking money changing machine. I'm not an ATM.
You pay attention to it. I don't. $1,000 will buy me in soybeans, but I don't pay attention.
Why would anybody want to buy a soybean? Have you ever eaten a soybean?
Because, yes.
That you grew?
A lot of people, yes. Have you ever heard of toy food?
Tofu.
Yeah, food.
Tofu.
Did you say toy food?
Tofu. Well, that's because nobody around here eats that garbage. But yeah, tofu. Yeah.
Tofu.
Do you want to see the can of organic vegetable soup that I had today for dinner?
You're not going to throw it up and show us, are you?
No, but the can is in the other room. I could go get it.
I've eaten a soybean before. It tastes like popcorn.
My wife drinks soybean milk all the time.
Well, now, did you brew any soybean alcohol yet? Distill anything with it?
That's a neat idea. I've never tried that yet.
All you need is sugar and distilling apparatus and some soybeans and thyme, right? And a heat
You need
source.
sugar and yeast. That makes alcohol. But no, you're right. I've never tried any. I've brewed some oatmeal. I have an oatmeal stout I really like.
I have McCann's Irish steel cut oats. It takes a while to cook them, but they're better than instant oats because the energy releases over time. But
yeah,
I gotta say, I'm really happy with my Bitcoin investment, and it keeps getting worth more and more and more. And when it gets worth enough so I could buy a piece of land with it, then I'll do that. And I'm very happy with my Bitcoin investment. It may not be that 70. I may not wait till it gets to be worth $70 million or that whatever they want for that the infinity pool mansion on the bluff over Secrets Beach on Kauai. I may just get something up on the volcano and I don't know how high Bitcoin's going to go, but I definitely did not want to go into the future with the way the economy is without having any. And if you guys do, that's your problem. It's not my problem.
When you get that infinity pool, I will eat my words, and you did the right thing.
I already know I did the right thing because it's worth 3 times more than I invested. So, right. and it keeps going up. So,
but where do you get of what you invested?
My blockchain wallet.
Can you?
Yeah, I can show you.
Okay, show me tomorrow.
I can show you right now.
$100 out of that. $100 cash out of that right now.
I'd have to go on the internet and sell it, which I don't want to do right now because he's still going up and up and up. I don't sell it if the value is going up and up and up and up.
But the value's not measured in Bitcoin. The value's measured in dollars. So you have to cash it in. You have to cash it in for fiat currency in order to use it.
No, I don't. People will take payment in Bitcoin. I plan on buying property with Bitcoin, and there are people who will take that.
My problem is where is that value held?
In my blockchain
North
wallet.
Korea, in a server farm in North Korea. Oh, crap, we just nuked it. Sorry, man.
Here it is. So, yeah, here's my blockchain wallet, and let's see if you guys can even see it. So, this was an $800 investment, and there it is. And it's going up every day.
That doesn't look like a wallet to me.
It is.
To me, the way you have to prove that investment to me is pull your $800 back out of that.
No way. Why would I? It keeps going up and up in value. Why would I sell something that's going up in value?
If you get $800 back and then the rest of it still made money for him?
Yes.
That would validate.
Pull your $800 out.
No, don't tell me what to do with my Bitcoin. I will sell my Bitcoin when I am goddamn good and ready to sell my Bitcoin, and not one moment before.
See, because if it crashed, he could say I didn't lose a penny. Right?
Right.
Hence validating it.
He's forgetting about that $800 investment.
I'm not forgetting about it. You're looking at it. It's now $2,239.26.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not because that is your original investment. You need to back that down and make it.
No, thanks. I don't need $800 out of this. I'll let it ride. I'm going to let it ride. I bought the ticket. I don't need to prove jack shit to you, pal.
Me, that $800 is still a legitimate investment anytime you want it. You could go ahead and pull it out.
I don't want to pull it out. I'm leaving it in there until I'm goddamn ready to sell it.
That's your problem, Hawaii. You don't know when to pull out.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
Pull it out and put it right back in. Just prove to me $800.
That's too
He's got
much
to
of a
fill
pain
out,
in the
he's gotta
ass to
fill
do
out a
that.
stack of paperwork, and he's got to wait 6 months. And
I don't think so. It's gonna.
no,
My
no
mining
bank will
every
cash the check.
few days, I get a little more Bitcoin added in here, and the value keeps going up and up. And I'm happy the way things are. You can do with whatever
All
you
right.
want with your stuff. I don't tell you what to do with your tractor or your flagpole or your beer brewing device.
Wait a minute, this is the man that was telling him to put hedgehogs on his front lawn.
Well, I was suggesting that would be a good
was
defensive perimeter.
Oh, suggested. Okay, I'm suggesting you
All
take
right.
your $800 out.
Well, but this is something
Well-
that exists that is mine, and it's not yours.
Raphael saying oatmeal stout party at Dusty's.
We're not talking a lot of money. I mean, in your situation, you're only talking $800. But
I'm not pulling out one penny. It's going up exponentially. Why would I sell it? I'm not going to sell it until I'm ready.
right now, but say the market turns.
Eventually
So-
it will. Eventually, I have no
It
doubt it will, but it's a long way from there. And it's not going to turn. It's the only way it's turning is up. There's just too much upside
How-
potential for me to sell any of this stuff.
How fast can you get that $800 back?
I could. There's banks here where I could. There's a bank here that actually will take it and trade it for fiat, but I just have no desire to do it.
So you could go to a bank today.
I could load it on my cell phone and trade it for money. I mean, with there's an app called I forgot the name of the app. I have it on my cell phone. Let me see. I haven't used it much, but let's see here. Abra. It's called Abra. You can keep your Bitcoin on your cell phone. That's just not how I want to do it, though. So I'm perfectly happy with. You could download the Abra app and probably trade currency for dollars right on your cell phone. For Bitcoin to dollars to any other currency right on your cell phone with the app called Abra. So you guys can check that out if you're interested.
Okay. But that money is not insured, right?
Why would I need
There is no
insurance? Why would I need insurance? Your money in the bank is not insured. Not only is it not insured, it's not there.
Wait a minute.
The money in your
Back
bank.
in the depression, the bank was insured, which it really wasn't until the FTC came around and
Okay, let's play out your situation. There's a banking
Okay.
crisis, and you've got $10 million in the bank, okay, or in multiple banks and spread out. So you're let's say all the money is spread out in like a couple thousand banks. So you go up to you put whatever it is, the 100,000 or 200,000 limit in each bank, and then there's a banking crisis. All the banks close, and in order to get your money back, you have to call the FDIC to get your money back. So you call the FDIC. You and 300 million Americans call the FDIC. And guess how many people work at the FDIC? What, 50, 100? And all of a sudden, 300 million Americans call the FDIC. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? You're going to be on hold for 5 years just to talk to somebody.
boy,
5
are
years
you
just to-
brain.
What?
Never mind. I'm not going to say it.
Go ahead and insult me. Call me into your second grade insult.
You're a fruit.
Now, I'm just saying. There you go.
What part of that scenario don't you understand? Or do you dispute? Do you dispute any part of the if the banking? You think you're going to get any money out of the FDIC if all the banks have a currency crisis and there's a banking crisis? You think that government's going to? How long do you think it will take to get your money out?
Years, but we will get it.
Meanwhile, your family dies.
Oh, you can borrow against it.
From a bank?
Your
The banks are
situation.
closed. The banks are closed. Who are you going to put? What part
If
of
the-
banking crisis don't you get? The banks are closed. How are you going to borrow money from a FDIC?
if
There'll
the
be some
banks are
guy in a
closed,
corner.
if the banks are closed,
You do not understand the technology of barter thing. That I mean,
I
where did our
understand
money
barter.
come from? Our money.
It came from what it came from. It no longer exists. It's according to the Constitution, gold and silver are supposed to be money, but they don't do that no more. They gave you a piece of paper and said you can exchange this piece of paper for your gold and silver, so you don't have to carry it around.
now
And
they give you
now
cryptocurrency.
they don't give you cryptocurrency. They give you
Which
digital ones and zeros on a computer because they don't want there to be cash. That's too much freedom.
this was the thing that your guy on that video made a mistake on. Goes right. He said that our currency was developed to be, but he did not mention the word barter. He designed as a alternative to trade.
He was talking about the Chinese inventing the paper currency. That's what he was talking about. And he clearly explained how back in China when they invented paper currency, instead of the alternative was, if you wanted to buy something, you had to carry a cart full of gold pulled by horses and all having armed guards with you, because if you didn't, you would be killed and robbed. So instead of that, they had paper currency, and that's easier to conceal. You don't need armed guards and a bunch of horses to haul it around. That's what he was talking about.
Is what the U.S. dollar was built on. It was a form of barter, legal barter.
Now that I think you need to read the Federalist Papers. It wasn't legal barter. I mean, first, I mean, we're going to get into the weeds on the continentals and the states, but the Constitution said that all the currency is supposed to be gold and silver. So, and nothing else is currency. So we got into paper money.
Did we develop paper money? Because it's hard to carry gold and silver.
Because we didn't want to use British. Because we didn't want to use British pounds. We didn't want to use British coin. We wanted our own, and they needed to fund the army, and so they needed to pay for things. Except they could never agree on anything in Congress. They never get anything done back then. Nothing has changed. Congress still, back during the Revolutionary War, the army nobody paid the army. George Washington had to pay for everything himself
with British money.
But the states printed up Continentals, and we all know what happened to the Continental. All that stuff was you needed 2 carts full of. The saying was during the Revolutionary War, you needed 2 cartfuls of paper money to buy 1 cart full of supplies, and that's how it is in Venezuela now. I mean, except worse. I mean, in Venezuela, you have to get your ration card, wait on whatever day you're supposed to wait in all day in this huge line, and then you bring all your fiat Venezuelan currency to the government store. And then they weigh the money because it would take too long to count it. It's so worthless. So what people do is they water down their money. They put water on their money so it weighs more. Before they weigh it, they get it wet so it weighs more. It's so, I mean, and that's what your paper currency basically is.
Sure it's not wet because it came out of the laundry a little soon because they're laundering money. Look, if the system collapses, the bill collectors ain't going to be able to collect money either. All right. And if they are, what are they going to back it up with? Because the banks are closed, cops ain't getting paid. You think they're gonna start enforcing what all these warrants? If you're talking about, you can't call
there might be martial law.
Yeah, well, not if they're getting paid. They ain't going to show up to work. The banks are closed. They ain't getting paid.
Well, but the military will get paid. They'll be the last people not to get paid.
Banks are closed. Banks
are closed, but the government still can print money.
Where are you going to cash it?
Nowhere. The whole system will be broken
Right.
at the PX, I guess.
Well,
They're going to give you script. Did they give you script when you were in to buy
no,
stuff?
you can cash it at the PX. You can do that, but it's not. I mean, all I'm saying is, if the banks go down, then all the things that we are worried about, like if my bill collectors want their money, well, what do you want me to do? The banks are shut down. Come get it if you want it.
No,
Be my guest.
basically, right. I mean, it's just like when Squib's at my house and I still have a gallon of gasoline. I'm gonna fight for that gallon of gasoline. Somebody is going to take it from us for it. I mean, or say a can of beans. No, that's where it's going to come to.
We'll have to fix the front end loader so you can dig deep holes because all the bodies are going to start stacking up. So
now I have another piece
they're
of
not getting the beans.
I was watching the one of the patent.
Especially if you build that 300 blackout.
Well, I wanted to say that I saw one thing that on American Heroes channel when I think it was during the Battle of the Bulge shows up on a Patton 360 or something, and I don't know if you have any bundles of hay on your farm, but what they what the Germans did to try and hide from the American tanks when they were rolling through is they would hide the Panther tanks on a farm. Except they would just cover it with hay, so it looked like a bundle of hay. And so they told the story. This is a true story from one of the veterans, which is why I watched that channel. And he said, yeah, we were rolling our Sherman through, and this one bundle of hay looked bigger than all the other ones, so we fired a HE round at it, and all the hay blew away, and there was a tank under it. And then the tank started headed toward us, so we loaded up an AP round and blew up the Panther tank. So I was saying, you should have some bundles of hay that you could have little bunkers under where you could set up little a perimeter of like but instead of like a guard tower, it was like would look like a bundle of hay next to a bunch of other bundles of hay. And then if somebody was gonna try and attack your farm, then you could open up on them from disguised as a bundle of hay. So it was an interesting camouflage for a farm, I thought. So that's why I thought of you when I saw that. So I hope that helps.
I have enough hay that I could hide Squib's tank.
Wait, when did you buy a tank?
Shh, you're not supposed to tell him.
Thought you were building an ad.
I'm sorry.
I did a show on tanks that were for sale on eBay, and somebody was actually selling a Stewart. In California, or maybe it was in Las Vegas, but it was a Stewart tank.
Have you ever played on that site? There is a lot of tanks on that site. I've seen Shermans. I've seen everything on that site that are affordable.
Obviously, they don't let you keep the cannons. I don't think they deactivate. They take the firing pin out or something. But still,
they're all deactivated. But it'd still be fun to have one.
Oh, it'd be awesome. So you're not opposed to having a tank on your farm? Well,
oh no, I could see cruising the neighborhood in that. That would be cool.
Okay, well, if you have your own armored vehicle, then you probably won't need hedgehogs, but it still wouldn't be a bad defensive perimeter item to have. But like I mentioned on a couple of chats ago, in Tobruk, they just had ditches. So I know you can dig ditches, anti-tank ditches.
I could dig a ditch very quickly, actually.
There you go. That's what they did in Tobruk. They didn't have any hedgehogs. So, jeepers. How time flies when you're arguing about Bitcoin.
It wasn't an argument. It was an intervention.
You were trying to steal my Bitcoin.
We're just looking out for you, man.
I'm trying not to argue. That's gotten me in trouble lately.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to tell you, Dusty, is All right, so yeah, I think I've used all my. I don't think I think I've used all my samples from that I recorded on my cell phone from things. I mean, I've got my newsreel tag.
Ow!
What are you saying out for?
We got to mute you somehow.
Is it too loud?
Playing about me and my combine. Jeez, oh, Pete's.
All right. Anything? Oh, okay. Jesse got a new gun. He got a Bond 9mm subcompact. It's called. I don't know why they called it a bullpup. It looked like a 9mm that somebody cut off the front of the barrel on. But to me, I'm happy with my Ruger LC9S Pro for subcompact. I don't know how much that cost. Bond Arms are their Derringers kind of expensive though? I think. Trying to recall the prices. But hey, anytime anybody gets a new gun, that's okay by me. I don't think I would have picked that particular one, but it's not my money, so he can spend it on whatever he wants. What did you think of that gun, Squib? Squib!
I think it's better than Bitcoin.
You think horse dung's better than Bitcoin?
Well,
what did you think of the gun?
Manure the field. Yeah. Okay, so it's like this. The gun's a little bit different because the round doesn't come straight up the grip into the chamber. It goes backwards to where the firing pin and the hammer would be. The barrel actually extends over the top of the magazine. So it almost pulls around backwards. I'm trying to remember if the old Borchardt pistols did that. So I'm wondering if it's going to cause any sort of muzzle flip, or it's really going to kick real hard, or if it's going to have feed issues. It's kind of unconventional.
It just looked weird to me. I'll do a screen share really quick.
The barrel looks cut off, but it's actually, if you scroll down on the Rifleman article, it shows a cutaway of it, and the barrel goes all the way back. So the slide can be stubby.
Yeah, it looks real stubby. I don't know. Can you see the screen share or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
But now see, the rounds actually go back into the right, into the back of the slide to chamber, where that black dot is there, where the serrations are. That's about where the round comes up. So that barrel is actually going back. I don't understand why it's engineered that way, but hey, whatever.
They wanted something different, and it's different. I wouldn't buy it, but I'm not Jesse James. It's obviously subcompact pistols have their place. You can conceal them and carry them a lot easier than a full-size handgun, and that's why I have my Ruger LC9S Pro. I can't wait till the CCW bill passes, if it does. We talked about that a little on the Every Second Matter show the other day. So I don't know. It doesn't look like it has any place for any accessories on it. There's absolutely no room for like a laser or a light or anything. So
yeah, and it looks to me like if somebody had a limp wrist, they would never fire that gun.
Well, 9mm isn't 380, so it'll cycle.
Yeah,
it'll
9 by 17.
It'll cycle. I think it'll cycle. 9mm usually cycles, but even if you do limp wrist it, but obviously limp wristing is a bad idea. You in case you're new to firearms, get a firm grip on your grip. It's called grip because if you limp wrist,
yes,
then your firearm might not cycle. So,
but I will say 90% of shooters have that problem. I've seen it a lot.
Yeah, well, that's what people should go to the range and practice, and if they practice enough, they won't have that problem anymore. As long as they figure out how to solve it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they figure out how to solve it. Most guys don't.
Right. Yeah.
That is a hard one to teach. Why? If you don't have it, be happy. If you have it, somebody.
Yeah, I've been trying to teach you guys about Bitcoin, and it just ain't taken. So.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, you're trying to teach me, and you ain't gonna convince me. So.
Yeah, well, I also am not going to join the Flat Earth Society too. But let me see what's out in there in the externals in case anybody's talking or making fun of us. I did buy that. So my Black Friday purchases was I got a 9x9 camping tarp from with reinforced tie-outs from Lost Wilds Outdoor, and wait for that to get here. My American flag should be here in a day or two. And I got that what I was talking about on Oily's show, the military what they use for chemical decontamination wipes. I got some of those from that company that I screen shared. I don't think I could find it really quick. Whoa. I've got too much stuff here on my. I have too many screens open. Can't find anything. See if I can find the email. So it was. Do you remember what the hell the name was of that company? Go look through my emails to find it.
No, I'm not sure. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to check out. I'm gonna have to head to bed. I got to get up early in the morning.
All right, man. How's the new job working out?
It's just day one. I really can't tell. I just in a couple weeks I'll switch me to afternoon shift, so I won't be able to make the show. But just gonna, I guess, just keep going in there and learning and figuring out if this is a good choice or not.
Well, we'll crack on as best we can, but I'll miss you. I'm really happy that you got some work. And
I appreciate that, but I mean, you know, we'll just see how it turns out. But the plan is for them to put me on second shift. So I met the guy on second shift who's going to be moving to first today, so he's happy I'm there.
All right. Oh, here it is. Reactive skin decontamination lotion from Emergent Biosolutions. Let me just screen share this. And thanks. It was nice talking to you again, Squib.
Yeah. Good night, guys. Good night, everybody.
Good night. So I'm just going to screen share this before we head on out. And it's rsdlready.com. Just hit the screen share button. Here it is. If you guys want to add this to your preps, if there's any preppers out there watching, this is for chemical warfare decontamination. This is what the military uses. So if you can't get some, the hell is that? Cancel. I don't want any flash player stuff. Military has been using this for over 10 years. So it's basically a wipe that if you get hit with mustard gas or let's see what it says it works against a bunch of chemical warfare agents. So you guys might want to check this out. It wasn't too expensive, but it wasn't exactly cheap either. So if you got a gas mask already and you're looking for something in case of chemical warfare or something like that, civil unrest kind of in the military starts deploying all kinds of weird gases, then you may want to grab some of this and throw it in your kit. Reactive skin decontamination lotion kit. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks Dusty for coming. It was fun arguing with you. And this has been the Lock and Load show on Gun Channels, and it's time for us to get to the chopper. Everybody stay safe out there. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah. And hopefully we'll see you all on Monday. Good night.